Thank you for stopping by Ballistic BBQ. On today's video, hold on to your seats because I'm going to be dry aging a 12 1/4 pound bone-in rib roast for 200 days. 200. Let's get going. Okay, the inspiration for this video is a rock star chef out of Sydney, Australia named Lennox Hastie. He has a restaurant called Fire Door, and he's pushed the limits to dry aging. He has a little special technique that I'm going to try to rip off from him, and hopefully it works. And we're also going to be using the UMAi Dry bags. And just to get it out of the way right now, this is not just a regular plastic bag, it's a special membrane. It bonds with the meat, it allows for moisture to leave the meat, and it also allows for an oxygen exchange, so it's legit dry aging, it's not wet aging. I get that comment a lot. Anyway, let's check out this rib roast. So again, a beautiful 12 1/4 pound USDA prime rib roast. And this is an expensive experiment, I'll tell you guys that right now. So as you can see, this meat, it was not cryovac, it was off the butcher counter, so it's wrapped in butcher paper. Because of that, the surface is a little dry and we need to kind of reactivate the proteins. So I'm going to go ahead and run this under the water in my sink, get it all nice and wet. Then I'm going to let it set out on a dry surface, on a dry pan, and let it dry for about 5 minutes. Okay, the ribeye has been rested 5 minutes. And for this particular process here, we're using the UMAi bags that are specifically made for large rib roasts and briskets. And I want to say it's 16 by 24 inches. First thing I want to do is cuff the top, about 4 or 5 inches. Now we're going to go ahead and put that roast in the bag. Nice thing, these are big bags. So I'm pushing the bone edge away from the wall here, from the bag wall. Right here, just a nice strip of parchment paper. And I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that I'm covering those cut bones with the parchment, just to give it a little bit more protection here. There we go. All right, the technique I'm going to use to get a nice tight seal on this bag is the same technique you would use if you don't have a vacuum sealer. And I'll be honest with you, it's become my personal favorite. I have a large container of water here. It's about 13 liters of water. I'm just going to lower that bag into the water, and the water is going to compress the walls of the bag and force the air out. Now you can see it's floating here, so we want to make sure we submerge it all the way. Zip tie, fairly large zip tie. I'm going to tighten the cuff here just a little bit. Now I'm not going to pull the zip tie fully tight yet. Just want to get it started so it's loose. I'm going to push this as close to that meat as I can get it. I'll go ahead and give this bag a couple twists just to reduce the diameter of this collar a bit. Now we'll pull that zip tie as tight as we can. I'm personally, when it comes to security measures, I like redundancy, so I'm going to take a second ring, again give this another twist. There we go. You can see it's as tight as any vacuum sealer could get this, because it's not a vacuum bag. So what I'm going to do now is dry this off on the exterior just with a towel, place it on like a cookie cooling rack in the refrigerator, and for this first step of this 200-day dry age, we're going to leave it in there for 30 days. I'm going to pull it out, remove this material, the UMAi bag, and then we're going to move on to the next step for that total of 200 days of dry aging. So I'll see you in a month. All right, we just hit that first 30 days, and you can see definitely looks dry aged. I mean, it is dry aged. Right now, it would be perfect to just stake this out, trim off that kind of waxy bark that's formed, and have some killer steaks. But we're pushing it way beyond that. We're going for 200 days. So what Lennox does now is he coats this dry aged meat with beef fat, melted beef fat. And he doesn't really elaborate why he does it, but he says it'll protect the meat. So I'm guessing it just kind of hermetically seals that meat and prevents it from getting really, really funky. I hope. Like I said, I have over $300 invested in this, so it'll be worth it. It's a fun experiment. So what I have here is some melted beef fat. And basically I took really nice beef tallow, put it on the stovetop, and I just melted it at a low temperature until it liquefied. It's not boiling or anything. Paintbrush, like old Lennox uses. And I have it in this tray for obvious reasons, just to kind of minimize the mess that I'm going to make here. And I'm just going to paint this dry aged roast with this beef fat, this melted beef fat. And the minute this stuff hits the beef, it pretty much solidifies. So I'm just making sure to get as much coated as I can, especially those little nooks and crannies. But I have something that I kind of figured out that works really well with these UMAi bags that I'm going to do. I'll show you in a sec. I want to make sure that I really fill in these bones that have been cut here, the cross cuts, you know, across the marrow there. Because it's the marrow I've found from past experience when I've kind of pushed the threshold of dry aging, that the marrow will definitely get a kind of a little bit more funk than the rest of the meat. If some of you are wondering, I get my beef tallow at my butcher shop. Most butcher shops will have it available. It comes in a little tub, but they also sell it. You can buy it on Amazon. It's not as big a quantities as I get it in, but you can buy it on Amazon. Okay, so this end here is where those bones have been cut. And I got my burger parchments that I use for making like smash burgers, and I'm just gonna put this on here to protect that bag. I think right now there's so much fat on there, I really am not too worried about, you know, the bone cutting into the bag, but just a little extra layer of precaution here. All right, get these gloves off for just a sec. I'm gonna put on another pair. I had this broiler pan lined with foil just to kind of keep it clean for the next step here. Get some gloves. All right, so again, I'm doing this in my refrigerator. It's running at about 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And once again, I'm going to be putting this now fat-coated roast in one of the large UMAi brisket bags. Roast is slippery right now with all that tallow, that fat on it. So I like to put it in, cut down. Now while it's in the bag here, I'm going to put in some more fat, because when I put it in the water to, again, get that bag tightened around the meat, it's actually going to push some of that melted fat up around it. It's going to give it a little bit more of a fat shell, a coating. You know what? I'm just going to pour it in. How's that? There. All right, so again, we're doing that immersion technique, so you do not need a vacuum sealer. Just going to slowly let it sink. And the fat, you can see the fat's coming up the sides and covering the top. This is exactly what I wanted it to do. Just reaching my hand in and just kind of massaging out some of the air bubbles. Put zip tie on, pull it tight, really tight. Now what I like to do, and I think it's a good idea, I didn't do it on the last one, but it was fine, but I like to loop the tag end of the bag, you know, the opened end of the bag over, and then put another zip tie it down as a loop. I think it just makes it a little bit more airtight. I don't think you're going to get any leakage out of the, you know, from the zip tie this way. There we are. Let me get this out without making a big mess here. There we are. Nice and tight. So I'm just going to take paper towel and just dry off the outside of the bag. And you can see this is very, very tight. I mean, I don't think you could have done this with the vacuum sealing machine, to be honest with you. Especially the vacuum machines. Chamber vac's different, but a vacuum machine like you buy at Walmart or whatever, it would just suck all the fat into the little reservoir there. Well, this is looking good. All right, now what I'm going to do is throw this back in the refrigerator, again on one of those grates, on a cooling grate, for 170 more days. So I'll see you next year, next spring, and I'm hoping that 2021 is a better year than 2020, man. See you guys next year. Hi. It's been 170 days since you last saw me when I coated this, but at that time was a 30-day dry-aged prime rib roast with the beef fat, with the beef tallow, and put it back in an UMAi Dry bag. And wow, started this project late October of 2020, and it's late April. It's the end of April 2021. Excited, nervous, very, very nervous. Here's my observations right now. I mean, it's obviously has not been out of the bag since you last saw me, and I can't smell anything at all, which is a good sign. I mean, UMAi, their bags do a very, very good job of keeping odors out of your fridge, but I would imagine if something's been like decaying for 200 days, I would still be able to smell it. I'm not. I do not know what to expect. I'm not seeing any, I mean, without sounding too gross, like gnarly, gooey stuff oozing out anywhere. We're going to watch this together. And I'll tell you this right now, I want to get this out right now. If this did turn out, so if I do have some good edible 200-day dry-aged steaks, I will be cooking this up by the end of this video, so it's not going to be a separate video. You have no idea how nervous I am right now. I mean, this is weird. Just, you know, when you want something so bad to work, and I've been waiting so long for this. Doesn't smell bad. It smells like dry-aged beef. You know, there's definitely a kind of an earthiness that you smell with dry-aged beef, and I'm smelling that. But it's not strong. I mean, I literally have to put the old honker right next to this. The fat, obviously, it's been in the fridge for 170 days, so this tallow is very, very, you know, it's like It's hard right now, the tallow. I'm guessing it's going to start melting here once my body heat starts taking effect. It's going to be a mess. So here's what it looks like out of the bag. Whew. This is going to be hard. I mean, it's like, feels like a rock. I think we may have a success here. I need to cut a little deeper. You see, I'm just trying to, because without, you know, with this fat on here, I can't really see what's going on. So let me cut another slice off here. There's that stuff that I don't want to eat. Yeah. There's definitely, you know, that dry age funk. It does not smell spoiled. So you can see how contracted the actual lean part is, and it's way more marbled than it was. This is going to be difficult. I need to find the bones. All right, let me cut this side off. So what my plan is, I'm going to cut both ends off, and then I'm going to take a bone saw and cut between, you know, the joints, I guess, where where those rib bones are. And it looks good. It's a nice ruby colored. It's not what you would expect. Spoiled meat. That looks good. I'm very, very excited, very happy right now. Again, what I'm doing is I just want to expose these bones so I know where to cut with the saw. And there we go. Look at that. Again, it does not smell spoiled. There's that definite dry age funk. It just has a very, like a nutty smell. Look how marbled that is. I mean, this was already a really good prime piece of beef, but you can see how, again, that muscle tissue just reduced in size, increasing, you know, the marbling there. Gorgeous. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut the cameras down now. I'm going to complete cutting out these steaks, and then I'm going to trim them up for you guys. And here we are. So this has been a long 200 days, and I cannot wait to try this out. Definitely, like I said, you definitely have that. The best way of describing it is kind of a nutty smell in the air. You know, one thing I did notice is that the two end pieces had definitely more of that kind of funk going on than the two slices that came from the center of this roast. That being said, I have eaten a lot of dry aged meat. I've dry aged a lot of meat, and it smells like the dry aged meat that I've done. There's no concerns at all. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Again, just that slight funk that you get from dry aged meat. This is 200 day. I cannot imagine what this is going to taste like. It's either going to be really good or a little too funky, but we're all going to find out down at the Argentine grill. I'll meet you guys there. So I'm going to try and pay a little homage to Chef Lennox Hastie. At his restaurant Fire Door, he cooks on an open flame, very similar to my grill. So I'm going to be cooking the steak on the Sunterra Pro Argentine grill. I love this cooker. Let's get going. So Chef Hastie is very much against getting those really defined grill marks. He's a flipper. He's going to flip his steaks like you wouldn't believe, just trying to nurture that crust, that developing crust. Seasoning it very simply with just some coarsely ground kosher salt. And I'm going to be flipping this thing like a madman. Today I'm cooking on a combination of lumped charcoal and almond wood, which is what I had available. So I'm going to be controlling the heat today primarily by raising or lowering the grate. The combination of the wood smoke smell and this rendering beef fat, it's intoxicating. Now when this meat hit the grate was pretty cool. I had the grate all the way up when I lit the fire, so we're not getting those burnt in sear marks on this at all. Now we're cooking at a hotter temp, just really trying to develop that nice crust now. All right. I'm going to allow this to rest a little bit and then give you guys a try. And here it is. Looks pretty darn good. It smells amazing. It really, really does. Like I said, just the combination right now in the air of that wood smoke with that really beefy smell, that rendering beefy smell. Let's see. It's cutting very tenderly, very tender. I'm a little excited. At the restaurant at Iron Door, this is basically a $200 steak. Nice medium rare. My favorite part of a ribeye is that cap. Now for my review of this and whether it was worth it. First of all, yes, it was. I'm proud of that. I'm very, very happy I was able to pull this off. Again, credit goes where credit's due to Chef Hastie for figuring out how to dry age that long without this steak completely rotting. And again, that coating it with that shell of beef fat was brilliant, and that's what made this work. Now as far as the flavors, first of all, concentrated beefiness. It's so much more beefy than just a traditional steak. I mean, it's amazing. There's a little earthiness going on, a slight hint of kind of a mushroom flavor, and a little bite of like a kind of a blue cheese flavor. All of that is because of the dry aging and dry aging that long. It's surprisingly enough, it's not like a whoa. Somebody who would like a 40-day dry aged steak would love this. So I don't think it's an exclusive, like you don't have to be a hardcore dry aged fanatic to enjoy the steak, but you definitely have to be somebody who appreciates that umami, that kind of little bit of funkiness. If you don't like blue cheese, for example, then you're not going to like this. But I love blue cheese and I absolutely love this steak. This was amazing, amazing. Wow. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. If you're not subscribed, please hit that red button. Make sure you ring the notification bell. Thumb it up if you like it, and I hope you did. Keep the suggestions coming in. And today, in honor of Australia, where that restaurant Iron Door is, we are drinking Cooper's. See you in the next video. Cheers.